Recognize that man? Former Clemson quarterback Deshaun Watson caught on Snapchat taking in the scenery in Times Square, and the national champion and two-time Heisman finalist joins me now on behalf of Old Spice. What were you thinking in that moment in Times Square?
I was just looking around because that was one of the moments that, came a long way from where I'm from. Of course, I've been here for the Heisman, but it was like an in-and-out trip, so it wasn't really time for me to get to enjoy the city like I did yesterday.
We know that maybe the Giants are set at quarterback for now, but when you're in New York City, you're in Times Square, do you let your mind think of what it would be like to play in New York?
I have lately. Previously, I haven't, but lately, just being able to, I guess, the Giants, if something happened and I can back up Eli or something with the Jets, you never know. But kind of the situation, just being in New York and handling all the media and all the fans, it would be pretty fun.
Broadway Deshaun. It's got a nice ring to it, actually.
I wouldn't mind that.
Get the mink coat out and everything, like Joe Namath. All right, we know you've been spending a lot of time with the other quarterbacks in this draft class, so we want to hand out some superlatives to the other QBs. Now, we're going to have a caveat here.
All right.
Can't choose yourself.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to ask you, if you were going to assign the superlative of class clown for quarterbacks in the 2017 draft class, who gets it?
I'm going Davis Webb.
Davis Webb. And what about him is so funny?
He's hilarious. You just have to, I don't know, it's hard to really explain. You just have to be around him. He's just one of those, not really goofy, but he can be goofy and just kind of funny.
Okay, how about most likely to succeed?
Most likely Josh Dobbs.
Why is that?
He's just a smart individual, works hard, a guy that just loves the grind, loves the work, and he's going to be successful in life, regardless if it's football or if it's something with I think he's an astronaut, so.
Is he an astronaut? Is he going to
planes.
space?
So,
he fly planes,
yeah.
right. Of course, he's interested in that. How about the biggest talker?
The biggest talker, is that like a good way or just like just
We're leaving that open to your interpretation, either just someone who's chatty or maybe someone who is talking trash. It's up to you.
I wouldn't say trash. None of the guys really talk trash, but none of them talk trash or talk bad on anyone. So I just say that can talk a lot.
Yeah.
I'll probably say DeSean Kaiser.
Okay, Kaiser.
Yeah.
He's a good conversationalist.
Yeah, he can talk. He can in a good way. So if he can persuade you in something, that's his field.
So maybe if the football doesn't work out, he could be like a lawyer or something, like a litigator or something like that. How about most likely to star in a reality TV show?
Reality TV show. I'll probably say. I just say Mitch Trubisky.
Mitchell Trubisky, he's at a star rise, right?
Yeah.
Meteoric rise. He doesn't mind the cameras.
Yeah, I think Mitch, he'll fit that mold.
Okay. Most likely to become president?
I would probably say DeSean Kaiser again.
He's got the gift of gab, right? He can turn any room. The perfect gentleman?
I'd say Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. Had a good vibe around him?
Good vibe. We always had a good vibe, but just he comes off great and professional.
Okay, now you can't say yourself in this, right? Best dressed.
I can't say myself? Dang. Best dressed? I'm not sure on that one.
Nobody gets it. Leaving it blank. You get it. Okay. Final one for you. Most likely to survive an apocalypse?
With Josh Dobbs.
Going with Dobbs again.
With Dobbs.
Okay, so the guy's resourceful, likes to fly, and you want him in an emergency.
Right. I think so.
Okay, so I am going to let you choose yourself in this one. Best smelling.
Best smelling? I'd say myself.
Well, of course, you're here on behalf of Old Spice, right?
Oh, yeah. Here, excited to partner up with Old Spice and have them and make sure I'm clean and fresh for the draft. And my skin is hydrated. We're using the Hydro body wash, and kind of keeping my skin moist.
All right, the greatest smell in the NFL. Of course, you can check out Old Spice's YouTube page for a lot more on Old Spice. At one point you were definitely considered the top quarterback prospect in this draft. Now some scouts say yes, some scouts say Trubisky is the top. Does that bother you after all you've accomplished on the college level?
Not really, to be honest, because people have their own opinions. They're going to like who they like. If they like Mitch, then they take Mitch and go with that. And don't second guess it. And then if they like me, hey, don't second guess that. So different people like different things, and it kind of fits their mold, fits their system, and what they want to drive for.
Are you the kind of guy who, if you are not the first quarterback taken, will this stay with you for your whole career, or will you just let it go and move on?
It always been chill, regardless if I'm the first quarterback or if I'm the second or third quarterback taken. I always have that chip just to prove everyone wrong. Not just because of this class, but just kind of people don't seem like this class is strong enough, which is I think is a strong class. All of us can go in there and play and perform and do a good job.
Yeah, how much of a misconception is it when people say this quarterback class is not as strong as in years previous?
It's just funny how it works out. Maybe because we don't have a lot of quarterbacks that came out this year, and we have a lot of DBs, a lot of receivers that came out. And so next year, I guess a lot of quarterbacks can come out, so it's going to be a strong class, and a lot of running backs don't come out. It's going to be a weak class. So it seemed like they kind of pick who they want to talk about and who they want to disclaim, and this year was the quarterbacks.
What was the most personal question you got in this whole draft process?
Personal question. I'm not sure if it was real personal, but just kind of, I was talking to one team, and they're like, when you hear the word woman, what's the first thing you think of?
How do you answer that?
And I just said respect. That's the first
Good
thing
answer.
I said. That's the first thing I said. That was the first thing that popped up in my mind, but it can go in any direction.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that's something because the NFL has gotten some scrutiny in the past over, issues with domestic violence and things like that?
Probably
think they were
so.
feeling you out?
Probably so. Just kind of feeling how I guess look at things and come across that, but just also just trying to get me off my toes. They talk about football, and then they ask me that question, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
But
it's all just one big psychological experiment,
Right.
and it all ends on Thursday, hopefully. If you were to give advice to the quarterbacks of the 2018 NFL draft, what would you want to tell them?
Just going into this season this year?
Or just
in general?
about this process.
About the process, really enjoy it and take full advantage of it, and don't take any days off. Just kind of, go each day by day, have a routine, have a plan, and each day try to get better. And if you have that mindset and mentality and just really enjoy the process and not let it stress you out, it'll be fun and you'll have a good time.
I actually like your question better. What advice would you give to the quarterbacks who are going to start potentially their last year of college football?
Don't worry about none of the mock drafts. The NFL is going to be here. You just worry about enjoying your last career, because it might not seem like you're going to miss it, but once you say you're declared and you start doing your own thing and you're a professional and an individual, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss all the memories, all the moments, and all the workouts with your teammates and brothers.
Yeah, I mean, you have so many amazing memories to go back to
Right.
in college. When did that sink in? I mean, it's not when you're walking off the field as a national champion. Was it weeks afterwards?
It was like maybe 2 months after off the combine and pro day, when I got a little break in there, just being able to sit at home and kind of relive things and sit with my mom and see the trophies and rewatch the game. That's when it kind of sunk in.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That outcome is never going to change. You
Never.
know that. You got it forever. Deshaun Watson, we wish you the very best of
Thank
luck
you.
on Thursday. We're just curious about where you're going to land. I know you are as well. Of course, we can watch you on YouTube on the Old Spice page. Get some fun stuff there. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Of course, the draft is anything but a sure thing for quarterback Ryan Leaf. His inability to live up to the hype surrounding him before the '98 draft had devastating effects. After washing out of the NFL, Leaf battled a drug addiction, a jail sentence, and a suicide attempt, and he's lived to tell about it. Now sober, Leaf is an ambassador for the Transcend Recovery community. Ryan Leaf stopped by our studio yesterday. Ryan, let's start here. On your absolute best day when you were playing football, what was your relationship like with the sport?
It was amazing. I loved practice. I loved competing against everybody. So, it was something I loved since I was as young as can be. And to have it become what it did was difficult to deal with.
Yeah, on that flip side, on its worst day, what was your relationship like with football?
It was a betrayal in some sorts for me. It was like this was this great thing that had become something that I despised almost. I disliked going into the office when I was in San Diego because of the relationship with the media, with my teammates. When you're 22 and you're supposed to become the leader of these men who are trying to put food on their table for their families, their kids, it loses something. At least it did for me in that instance. The successful ones are able to compartmentalize and make the job work at that moment and make it a fun thing to do.
The draft is almost here. You have written a piece for Sports Illustrated, first-person account that goes back to 1998. That's really where it starts. What kind of feelings does this time of year bring up for you?
I wouldn't say it's difficult, but I know it's coming. And in the past, I probably wasn't able to deal with it as well. But I go through different steps now. I have people that I connect with. I use my therapist. We talk about, I'm going out to do some work with ESPN this week with the draft, doing some media while I'm here in New York talking about it. And we talk about, what things are to come. How is my ego going to be involved? Make sure this has nothing to do with me, but actually being of service to somebody else. So it's important to keep that awareness alive when you're moving forward doing things like this.
If there hadn't always been the comparisons between you and Peyton Manning, do you feel like your life would have been different?
I don't think so, because I was always there. People talk about the joke, like you make a geographic change and go someplace, but the problem is I was always there. And it was me who hadn't changed yet. Didn't matter what, the NFL did, what the media did, what the San Diego Chargers did. It was me in that environment and how I was behaving. And until I made some drastic change, nothing's going to change.
Was there any kind of closure, though, when Manning retired for you? Did that impact you at all?
No, I think that, that was the least of my troubles, was Peyton being successful. And I've always been a huge fan of his. So when he went out on top, I was proud of him. And I still am. I'm proud of the person how he conducted himself. I wish I could have been, half the player that he was. My goal is to be a similar person when it comes to being a human being.
You've talked about your several low points, and this is part of your recovery, the addiction, being in prison, suicide, thoughts of it. When you see the news about Aaron Hernandez, I know this is not apples to apples, but what feelings did it bring up in you?
Well, it's tragic just on a human level, because now 4 people have lost their lives that in some way, shape, or form there was an association. So it's difficult to see, and you don't ever want to see that. There's a big difference to taking somebody's life too and being incarcerated for that. I know what it's like to be in isolation in a prison cell, and probably the only thing I had going for me was the idea that I was going to get out at some point. But I was willing to stay in there too, because you don't have any responsibility. You're not getting criticized judgment-wise. In his case, that's difficult to say what that looked like. I can put myself in the position of what it's like to want to take your life, and wondering what that would mean.
If you could have sat with Hernandez even for a moment, what would you want to tell him?
Well, there's always a chance to make a change. You may spend the rest of your life in this place, but you can make amends and try to work hard and be better. I mean, it's difficult to say. For me, it was, and I don't want to minimize this at all for me, but I just look at it like it was this difficult time I had to get through in my life. It was a rough patch of sorts, because I think people out there struggle with not only addiction, but many other things in their life, and they're able to find ways to fight through it. And it's just a similar story. Mine just happened to be more in the public eye.
Yeah. And looks now like a real happy ending for you. How much has this transcend the community that you are a part of? Did you start there as a driver? I mean, pretty low on the totem pole. How did that impact your life and get you to where you are today?
Well, it was huge, because it humbled me in a way where I was making $15 an hour, driving young men and women around to meetings, to therapy sessions, being pretty much a support staff, to be valued in a way that I don't know if I ever felt like I was. And that has enabled me to become their program ambassador now, where we can reach so many more people by doing things like this, and getting our message out about what we do. We're a recovery community, and we're based all over the country now in Los Angeles, New York, as well as Houston. So if there's someone out there struggling or is as miserable as I was, you can go to transcendrecovery.com, transcendrecoverycommunity.com, or transcendrc.com, and we have people on the phones there at all times where they can reach out. And even if you don't want to commit to something, just reaching out and asking for help and talking to somebody anonymously is a freeing feeling.
Brian Leaf, It's fantastic to talk with you every time. I feel like I get enlightened just by talking with you. Have fun during the draft. A little bit different perspective for you this year. Hopefully it's a good time.
Yeah, it will be. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's talk quarterbacks. If you read mock drafts obsessively, like every football fan should, you'll notice there's something missing. Usually at this point, there's some kind of consensus on where the top QBs will be drafted. This year, total chaos. Trubisky, Watson, Mahomes, Kaiser. Everyone likes a different player. I have a perfect solution. Don't draft any of them in the first round. Now, for a long time, you needed a first-round signal caller to win it all. Tom Brady accepted. But that's changing. Let's look at the stats of the guys who've been drafted since 2011. First-round QBs, 12 playoff starts, 9 Pro Bowls. Not bad. Post-first-round QBs, 29 playoff starts, 11 Pro Bowls, 1 Super Bowl champion. I have a couple theories as to what's going on. Number one, the NFL started slotting rookie salaries in 2011. Made it easier to take a developmental guy. All of a sudden, non-first-round talents were going higher. It also made it easier to get rid of them. So the first rounders didn't last as long, opening the door for the Kirk Cousins of the world.
You like that? You like that?
Number two, the college spread. It's everywhere. Most of these quarterbacks have never been under center. Teams are guessing what they can do if they play in a pro style. The result? You have a real chance of finding a winner after the first round. Now, there are exceptions. Sometimes there's a no-brainer at the top of the draft. Not this year. So you can have your Trubiskys, your Watsons, your Mahomeses. I'll take Pitt's Nate Peterman, Cal's Davis Webb, maybe even Tennessee's Josh Dobbs. Oh, and I'll gladly take Trubisky, Watson, and Mahomes if they fall out of the first. There's less pressure, and the odds are these days you might find a Super Bowl winner.
Let's keep the draft conversation going, shall we? One name you could be hearing on Thursday is Hurricanes tight end David Njoku. The 20-year-old with a 37.5-inch vertical recently stopped by our studio. David Njoku, you're known for your jumping ability. Really, high jump is something you excelled at when you were in high school, also in college. So we were hoping you might be able to help some other people out. There are some famous fails that have happened on the internet. We want you to take a look at some of these mishaps when people were trying to do some vertical leaping. And maybe you could give them a little bit of advice. Let's start with the sport that you were really excelled at, which is the high jump. So let's take a look at someone who didn't have the same kind of success that you did.
Oh.
What can you tell this poor woman? What went wrong here?
I think for starters, she needs to pick up her speed a little bit. You know, with high jump, you gotta, you know, kind of like run, kind of like, not necessarily fast, but you gotta like build up, and you know, at some point, feel like you're sprinting before you take off. And I don't think she got enough speed.
She clearly needs a lot of work. Let's look at a couple other vertical fails. Maybe you can help these people out too. Warning, this is going to look very painful.
Oh, man. I wish he didn't record this. Oh!
And we have it in slow-mo because, of course, we do. What did he do wrong?
For starters, I'd say to avoid pain like that, to get both feet over the hurdle.
Simple advice, really.
Yeah, I'm sure that didn't feel too good. So, yeah, he just needs to just get the power to get over, then to get on top of and fall painfully like that.
Listen, you have a vertical leap of 37.5 inches. That's what you were clocked at the combine.
Yeah.
He could use your help there.
I actually jumped 40.5 inches at my pro day.
Amazing. What does that feel like?
I mean, you just got to put a lot of work into it, like a lot of power workouts, you know, just getting in shape and everything, and you should be able to do it.
You mentioned 40-inch vertical, and that's what you did at your pro day, which is just spectacular. Any interest in maybe competing in the Olympics one day? I mean, we've seen that from other NFL athletes like Marquise Goodwin.
Yeah, I think I'm too heavy.
Marquise Goodwin.
So I jumped 7 feet 1 inch in high school. And in college, my best was like 6'10" and a quarter, you know, and I'm just gaining more weight to play tight end. Maybe if I was a receiver and I lost like maybe like 40 pounds,
I think of doing it, but I'm too heavy to jump, what they're jumping in the Olympics.
You're one of 9 children, and they call you Chief. Where does that come from?
It came from my dad. He used to do a lot of things. He used to own an airline when I was younger, and I was in the oil business. So like his name, his title was Chief. And because I look very like my father, they passed the torch to me. And ever since I was in middle school, my name was Chief until now. They call me Chief, and I think it's growing even more.
Your little brother, and we'll put that in quotes, his name is Evidence. He's a great football player in his own right and is actually going to Miami.
Right.
Did you have any thoughts about sticking around so you guys could play together?
Oh yeah, he really wanted me to stay as well. He telling me every day, yeah, but just stay one more year. Let's have fun together, But I had to do what was best for myself and the whole family, and it was smart enough for me to leave this year. But he's gonna be just fine, as well as Charles, who's a sophomore in high school. They're both gonna be beasts. I'm really excited to see how they progress.
How many Njokus are going to be in the NFL one day?
I'm gonna say hopefully 3. There's me, and then there's 2 younger ones who's playing. Working really hard, striving for greatness. So I'm really proud of them.
Man, that would be a real feat. Who's the best athlete out of you 3? We always hear the youngest one ends up being the best because they get beat up on.
I think Charles is going to be the best out of all of us. I think he's going to be the real special one.
And what position does he play?
He's playing running back right now, but he's growing really fast. So he might get moved to receiver and just kill it. I'm really excited to see how he does.
What part of your game do you feel like you still need to work on?
I think everything. To be honest, I'm hearing a lot of noise about people saying that I can't really block, and that that kind of gets me all, rallied up and excited to block even more, because I feel like I blocked pretty well this year, and there's always room for improvement. So I'm just going to show the world what I can do.
How much do you carry these sort of what the anonymous scouts are saying, or people how they're either criticizing you? Are you taking that with a chip on your shoulder? Is it putting a chip on your shoulder?
Honestly, I don't really believe in all that hype. I think it's all talk until we finally get on the field. But I like reading things about people saying that I'm not good enough, so it just gets me more, excited to show them, what I can do. It gets me more rallied up. So I'm just really excited to show the world what I'm capable of doing.
All right, so people are saying that maybe your blocking needs a little work. I don't know. We've watched the tape. It looks like your blocking has been phenomenal. What is the best attribute you have on the football field, in your own opinion?
I think it's my yards after the catch. I tried this thing this year called meditating.
Yeah.
I envisioned myself, drew stiff arm, spin move, truck, stick, and hurdled all this year. So I think that helps me a lot, just to envision myself doing it before I do it, and then doing it on the field.
What's the longest you'll go while sitting in a meditative trance?
I think the longest I've ever went was I'd say 20 minutes straight. I just just sitting down, just focusing on those little things in football, whether it's running a route a certain way or breaking tackles. The longest was 20 minutes.
You've been going through this sort of wild time, meeting with all these teams. Do you get any weird questions from teams and scouts?
Oh my God. Okay, so I was at the combine, and I'm so mad. I don't remember the team that told me this, because it was a blur. I was meeting teams back to back to back, and I sit down, and I try to shake the manager's hand, the head coach's hand, and they're like, "No, just sit down." So I sat down, and it's just quiet for a minute straight, and I'm like, "This is so awkward." And the head coach looks at me in the face. He's sitting right in front of me. Looks at me. He was like, "David, where does the sun rise and where does the sun set?" And that question threw me so off. I was I just blacked out, and I'm like, "What? What? Really?" But after I got back, got together, I was like, "The sun rises in the east, sets on the west." And a minute later, we just go back talking about ball, nothing ever happened.
So it was just some kind of psychological experiment.
Just to throw me way off, and it did.
And
but,
it worked.
I got back together real fast, and it was okay, let me answer this question and move on.
You want to know who you have to thank for this? It's Jared Goff. After we saw him on Hard Knocks, he didn't know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, so he's ruined it for everyone now.
I'm still got to answer that question right. I was thrown way off. I'm telling you, it was crazy.
I can't imagine actually how long a minute of silence is. All right, let's do it right now. Ready?
You want to do a minute, a whole minute?
We're going to see how far we can get. So I'm you walk in, you sit down, and then it's just like this.
Just like that.
It's
for a
so
minute.
bad.
It felt like
5
hours.
seconds.
It was terrible. It was horrible.
Listen, David, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank
and listen, enjoy your draft day. You're going to have a draft party in Miami, not going to Philadelphia. Enjoy it with your friends and family.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
After phone calls to Jerry Jones and tweets about the New York Giants, Adrian Peterson has found his second team. 10 years in Minnesota are over. Peterson revealed to ESPN that he will be signing with the New Orleans Saints. Peter King of the MMQB joins me now with a reaction. Peter, why New Orleans? Did Peterson not have any other attractive offers?
I think there's two things here, Maggie. Number one, Adrian Peterson knows that he needs to be in a place that is going to be veteran friendly, and he knows that he's going to get his touches no matter who else is on the roster. And that includes, in this case, Mark Ingram, who's coming off a very good year in New Orleans. And I think the second thing is Adrian Peterson loves Houston. He lives in Houston. And now he can be a 50-minute flight away from Houston. He can either, if he wants to, it's a long drive, say a 4-hour drive. So to me, part of this is proximity to home, and part of this is sitting with Sean Payton 2 weeks ago in New Orleans, and Sean Payton convincing him, if you come here, you'll be taken care of. Now, Maggie, I think there's one other really important thing that Adrian Peterson did, and that is he made a manageable contract, decision. And this contract that he signed is probably going to pay him somewhere around $4 million in year one. And if there is a year two, you'll never, I doubt he'll play for what year two is right now. They'll probably redo the deal. But this is designed to be a one-year prove-it contract at age 32 for Adrian Peterson.
What kind of production do you expect Peterson to have next season?
Maggie, he's one of these guys who he's a classic. I'll show all of you you're wrong. And, but, look, at age 29, he barely played. At age 30, he had a very good year. At age 31, he barely played. So I wouldn't go expecting a lot of great production. And if I am this team, I'm very, very glad that I'm going to have Mark Ingram on the team just in case.
Okay, just in case. The Saints finished 7-9, Peter, the last 3 years. Does signing Peterson immediately mean more wins for New Orleans, or do they have more work to do?
Oh, they got a lot more work to do on their defense. And whether they get Malcolm Butler or not, and I have a feeling they're not going to get Malcolm Butler from the Patriots, they need basically right now to get a corner who can start opening day, and they need at least one more rush player, either at defensive end or outside linebacker. Remember, they got Sheldon Rankins coming from last year, was hurt most of last year after drafting him number one. That'll be a plus. I think the Saints are going to be a pretty good team this year because I think they're going to get two more day one impact players on defense. Look, Adrian Peterson is not the answer for them. And look, he could have a great year, but Adrian Peterson, in my opinion, is an insurance policy for the New Orleans Saints.
Wow, very interesting. From MVP to insurance policy. Doesn't seem like it's been that long. Peter King, appreciate your insight. Thank you so much.
All right, Maggie, take care.
I'm not a big baseball fan, but my husband wrote a book called Moneyball, and he didn't want to stop being close with Billy Beane, so he dragged me to spring training in 2003, even though he was done writing the book. And I met the 2002 Oakland A's draft class, and they were so young and hopeful and full of purpose that I felt like I not only wanted to find out who they were going to be in baseball, but to sit around, wait around, photograph them until they figured out who they were going to become after baseball. Well, Mark Kiger's story is really another resurrection story. Baseball was his life. He made it to the A's. He had no plan B. And Billy Beane loves players who have no plan B because they leave it on the field 100% every single night. But Kiger's problem was that he couldn't hit right-handed pitchers. And the reason for that is that one day he and his mom were home and a guy came riding down the street on a banana bike and he fell over the front of the handlebars and broke his shoulder in front of Mark's house. And Mark's mom and Mark took care of him, and eventually this guy becomes Mark's stepdad. And because he broke his right shoulder, he could only throw to Mark with his left hand. So Mark became an incredible hitter of left-handed pitchers. But as soon as the other team figured out that he couldn't hit a right-handed one, they would change the situation in the game, and then, you know, that was his Achilles heel. So that picture was taken in Stockton, California. The single A team for the Oakland A's at the time were the Stockton Ports. So that picture is a picture I tried to get for 15 years. And it took me till 2014 to pull it off, mainly because I think the mascot got used to having me around. So if the camera was pointed toward him, he really performed. So I like that picture too because of the dichotomy between what you see in the stands versus what you see in the dugout sometimes. Jed Morris is somebody who was drafted by the Oakland A's, and that's a picture from 2003. And that image, to me, yes, if you're a guy, that probably seems like a very painful picture to look at. But for me, it's about the role of chance in life. And even when tragedy strikes, I feel like as human beings, we all go on. And in Jed's case, many years after I took that picture, he ended up getting leukemia and got healthy, luckily, afterwards. And he has started a foundation, and he's got 2 healthy kids, and he is a coach for a college baseball team. So he managed to keep baseball in his life, but cancer really derailed him from a professional career. Nick Swisher smiles in every picture I take of him. And in this picture, I just really wanted him to be relaxed. It's a picture of Joanna Garcia Swisher, his wife, with her arms wrapped around him. Nick was so comfortable in front of the camera, and Joanna's an actress, and I thought that they could pull this off. I feel like it's a very tender picture, and Nick is not performing, and I like that too.
Okay, that's going to do it for this Tuesday episode of SI Now. We'll be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. But until then, stick with SI.com for all the latest news. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at SI Now Live. See you tomorrow.